Stop. If you know what the rose is, this is for you. And if you don't, listen closer. Meet Lem by Hello Nancy. Yes, it looks like a lemon, but it's anything but innocent. Every 25 seconds, someone discovers Lem. With 500,000 customers and a 4.7 star rating, women say it's toe-curling and mind-blowing. It's whisper quiet and completely discreet, so no one hears a thing and no one knows what it is. Go to HelloNancy.com for 50% off this Valentine's Day. Once you try it, you'll understand.
Hey, Trojan family, what's up? Welcome back to the USC LAFB show here on the LAFB network. I'm your host, Ryan Dyrud. Let's talk about the defensive line in terms of recruiting. Again, off week for USC, so not a lot going on this week. So heavy just on the recruiting rumors, the recruiting mill, the recruiting information, whatever you want to call it. So that will be kind of the theme this week, and I might get into some other stuff as we carry on throughout the week. But let's talk about the defensive line, because I believe USC is going to take 3 defensive linemen in this class. They already have one committed in Isaiah Vandermeid, so that leaves 2 spots remaining. Could be 2 edges to pair with Vandermeid, or could be another defensive interior with Vandermeid and then adding 1 edge player to the class. I tend to think there'll be a little bit more in that regard, but we'll see how it plays out. I think it kind of depends on the actual prospects and really where it comes down the line. So just this past weekend, one of the defensive line visitors was 4-star defensive lineman interior, Malik Lee. Had a very good visit, went very well, already has set up an official visit to be back with USC. So he will be back on an official on the weekend of June 12th to June 15th, or June 14th, that weekend. He's the 32nd ranked defensive lineman according to Rivals industry rankings. 6'3", 270 is how he's currently listed. Obviously, probably a little bit bigger than that. And he's from Sarasota, Florida. So, we've mentioned this is going to be a really heavy California class, as 26 was, this being a smaller one. I mean, if you take 18 recruits, it's looking like it could be in that like 12 to 13 Cali kids. So a very limited number of out-of-state kids. But you're still going to absolutely pursue some of these top-end players, and I think Malik Lee is one of those. You watch his huddle film. I'll put one of the links in the description. You can check it out. I mean, he's got great burst off, through in the interior, great burst through the gaps, great tackling, and obviously really good size there at 6'3", 270, and will certainly probably put on a little bit more weight cruising through his senior season. So a lot of excitement here with Lee. I think he had a great visit, obviously sets up that official visit for June. Also a name that I don't know if I don't think I've talked about him a ton. I've mentioned him as one of the defensive line kind of pursuit or prospects in pursuit, and that would be the Oaks Christian prospect, Oli Faletti Tuihalamaka. He just came off of a visit of Oregon that all indications went very well, pushed Oregon up in his list. Not surprising, right? Oregon is good at recruiting. They do a really good job with their visits. USC has been seen as probably one of the favorites in his recruitment thus far. Like I said, local prospect from Oaks Christian, 6'3", 265, currently listed as 4-star. He is the 40th ranked defensive lineman in the class. So, coming off a good visit right now as it stands. He told Rivals after this visit that, Oregon certainly shot up in his list, really likes the school. And they would kind of join the ranks of, I think, USC still being at the top, and then with Miami and Michigan. So it seems like a 4-school race at the moment for Tuihalamaka. And USC, I feel like if USC kind of pushes their chips all in, this is one that they can certainly land to add to the interior with Vandermeid, which I think they would be absolutely thrilled about. I think either Lee or Tuihalamaka would both be really nice additions. They're not going to be, again, as high profile, high price as someone who we'll talk about in just a second, like a Marcus Fakatau, but certainly still a lot of skill, a lot of talent, gives you different kind of burst in that interior, and I think maybe underrated in the evaluation process. So look for those two Lee and Tui Halamaka being kind of two of the finalists for USC as we head kind of down the stretch into official visits. I don't believe Tui Halamaka has an official visit scheduled yet. That is barring some changes or barring a commitment from someone else before then. I certainly think that will come to fruition. Last few names to give you for the defensive line. Mentioned him last night. So talked a bunch about him, so I won't go all through all the intangibles and whatnot, but Mekhi Brown, edge prospect, 7th ranked overall edge in the class. He's also the 27th overall ranked player on Rivals rankings, meaning if that were to end today, he would end up being a 5-star. Right now listed as a 4-star. So certainly in the running to end up being a 5-star, one of the top edge prospects in the country out of the state of Connecticut. And he has shot, he's at the top of USC's board, but USC has shot to the top of his board after his visit this past weekend. So just to kind of put a bow on those, like if you were to get either Lee or Tui Halamaka with Mekhi Brown, that is a fantastic defensive line class for 27. So I expect one of those two D linemen to be kind of at this time. Again, it's so fluid. Recruiting changes constantly. Like sometimes Malik Lee wasn't a guy we had even like mentioned a few days ago, and now he's like got an official visit, one of the top guys. So these things change, but as of right now, March 17th, I think look for those two guys on the out of the tackle room, and then look at an all-out blitz similar to a Luke Wafel for Mekhi Brown. Last two names I mentioned him already, Marcus Fakatow. He's set up like 6 or 7 official visits and still has not done so with USC. So I don't think USC is fully out until Bowden and Riley tell Coach Dog to, okay, we're moving on. I think there will still be continued attempts and recruiting and communication. He is that good of a player, but it certainly seems like it is waning on that, and very unlikely that they end up kind of pushing all in for Fakatow. Now, that can change. We'll see if they get him back on campus. I'm sure they'd love to get him back for an unofficial to see if they can get an official scheduled, if he has any weekends left or if he'll cancel one of them. Like I said, he's got one with just about every major profile school out there right now. So keep you posted. But as of now, March 17th, I would not pencil in Marcus Fakatow with USC, but we'll see. And then last, haven't heard a lot about him recently. There was a lot of momentum earlier, so we'll see if they're able to get him on campus before spring ends. But John Ioane out of Tustin, 25th ranked defensive lineman, and someone that I've kind of linked to USC for a while, but again, could be cooling. I think the two guys I mentioned earlier in this segment are much higher on the list, but Ioane, obviously, another local prospect out of Tustin, which is putting out a lot of good prospects this for sure in this 27 class. So just another name to throw at you. Again, this is fluid. Excited to be back on campus next week. So we'll see what visitors ultimately come, because that gives us a good indication of kind of how those pursuits are going kind of mutually, right? So let me know in the comments your thoughts. If you had your choice, obviously Fakatow is the unquestioned choice for everyone, but if it's Malik Lee, if it's Tui Halamaka, if you can add Brown to one of those, like what pairing would you like to see out of those three guys to add to Vandermeer? Drop your comments below. Hit that like and subscribe button. USC LAFB, as always, brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Make sure to check out FanDuel Sportsbook today. Tell them USC LAFB sent you, and I'll be back with plenty more. As always, family, fight on.
Hey, it's Howie Mandel, and I am inviting you to witness history as me and my Howie Do It gaming team take on Gilly the King and Wallow 267's $1 million gaming in an epic Global Gaming League video game showdown. 4 rounds, multiple games, 1 winner, plus a halftime performance by multi-platinum artist Travie McCoy. Watch all the action and see who wins and advances to the championship match against Neo right now at globalgamingleague.com. That's globalgamingleague.com. Everybody games.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.